Welcome back to the channel. This is Stéphane on the French Cooking Academy, and as promised, this week we're going to be learning how to make the famous soufflé au Grand Marnier. But little note, you may have noticed that in my thumbnail, in yellow, you have something called how to. And this is a new signal to let you know that when you're going to see this how to, we're going to make a demonstration, a recipe, but before then we're also going to be talking about the ins and outs of the preparation when it is necessary. In this case, we're going to learn all about soufflé, why is it called like this, how to make it, why does it rise, and try to answer all these common questions really briefly in a nutshell, and then do the demonstration. So if it's something that sounds appealing to you to learn about soufflé and then make it, well, keep watching. And here we are. So let's start talking about the name soufflé. It's a French word. What does it mean? And it is blowing into something, like souffler dans un ballon, and blowing into a balloon. So it's the action of, that is soufflé. So the soufflé, basically, what does it mean? It's a preparation, and it mimics the fact that someone has blown into it, and it's kind of ballooned up. That's how it's called, the soufflé. Next, what type of soufflé do you have? Okay, you got the savory soufflés and the sweet soufflés. Okay, so there's two main categories. In the savory soufflés, there is two types. You got the standard one that you know, like a cheese soufflé that is just prepared. You mix everything together, you cook it, it inflates, you serve it straight away. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is a twice-baked soufflé that you may have heard from the soufflé suisses from the Roux brothers, where a soufflé is first baked once in a ramequin. This is taken out and placed into a plate, usually with cream and other garnish around, and then put back into the oven just before serving for a second puffing. Okay, this is the other types of soufflé that exist. And these are served, of course, warm. In the world of the desserts, you've got the sweet soufflé based on fruit coulis, chocolate, pastry creams, and these are warm desserts. Okay, but you've got also another type called the soufflé glacé, made also in a ramequin like this, except it's a totally different preparation, where you're going to put baking paper around it, like towering around, and you're going to fill the ramequin with some kind of an ice cream types of mix that's going to mimic the soufflé height. Okay, and this is less common, and we might do it also on the channel. So this is, in a nutshell, the types of soufflé you need to know. So that's it for all the information. We're now ready to start the recipe. So let's start with the soufflé au Grand Marnier, a warm, delicious dessert. And we're going to be using the biscuit à la cuillère from last week. And now for the demonstration. So we're going to be making today a soufflé au Grand Marnier, which is called like this by mistake, because as per the Escoffier Guide Culinaire, this should be called the soufflé à la liqueur. It's a liquor-based soufflé. Why? Because the liquor can be changed. Grand Marnier is the one that everybody knows. It's a cognac and orange liquor mixed together, but you can use Chartreuse, you can use Curaçao, you can use Cointreau, you can use rum. It does not matter. What's important in that recipe to make it properly is to use what I've told you before, the two elements. So on one hand, we've got the pastry cream we're going to make here with these ingredients. That's going to be the base. And then the egg white for the second, for the fluff, and for the whole thing to rise. For the flavoring, Grand Marnier, and this, of course. Last week, biscuit à la cuillère, that we're going to be soaking in liquor and then put in our mixture of the soufflé. You're going to find all the details for the ingredients, of course, in the video description. And now let's start straight away by making our element number one, remember, the pastry cream. So step number one, pastry cream. You take a saucepan, this is a saucier pan. We're going to put this low to medium. We're going to add all of the milk in with half a vanilla bean with the seed scraps into it. So what do I mean by scraping the seeds? With a knife, and you scrap the seeds. So I'm going to repeat the same, and then we're going to put the whole thing in. All the vanilla is in. All what I'm going to do now is to wait until the milk warms up, and in the meantime, we're going to prepare the mixture of egg yolks and sugar. So for the mixture of egg yolks and sugar, we've done that before for the pastry cream, but there is one thing that is particular when it comes to the sweet soufflé. We're going to be starting with 2 egg yolks in here, mixed with all of the sugar, okay? And you would notice that I've got 1 egg yolk here standing on the side, and we're only going to be using that egg yolk afterwards, once the cream is cooked. So as always, you're going to whisk this for a minute, just time for the sugar to dissolve. So I've just realized that there is an ingredient I forget to show. It's of course the flour. It will be listed in the video description. So once your mix is nice and white like this, and you're going to incorporate the flour. Ideally, you can use a little sieve. I've pre-sieved it already, but if you want, you can redo it. And little bit by little bit, you're going to mix it in and incorporate with the egg mixture. Okay, so when all of the flour is in, this is what you're going to get. It's usually quite thick. Like very thick, it is normal. And what you're going to do to fix this, we're going to take the milk, which is now warm. I'm going to turn my heat off. Okay, we're going to filter it through. First, you start with half of it or something. Up. And then slowly, you're going to take your whisk and you're going to mix everything together. Beautiful. So you see it's nice and liquid. I'm going to add the rest of my milk in. Okay. Mix the whole lot and then back into the pan. So as I just said, we're going to transfer the mix. So if you want to do things properly, rinse your sieve. And I'm taking all of that custard mix, basically, with the flour in, passing this through a sieve. And that's it. I'm going to turn my heat back on, medium-low. Don't do it too high because you're going to get clumps. You're going to take the whisk back and start whisking. Okay, so as you can see, I've started whisking. My heat is on low. You can put it on low if you want. I will always advise to make a pastry cream on the lowest heat possible to really avoid clumps. If you go too fast, it's going to solidify too fast. You're going to have blocks of cream forming and it's going to be very hard to get rid of them. So by going slow, like this, it's going to thicken very, very slowly as you whisk and you're going to get a very smooth pastry cream. So I've put a timer on about 1 minute 40 seconds in. So roughly within 2 minutes, you're going to see your cream appears. It is smooth. That's what you want. And we're going to keep on going. You don't stop the heat here. We're going to wait for the boil to come. And there's going to be little bubbles. And when you see this boiling appear, you're going to keep on cooking that cream and mix slowly for at least 2 to 3 minutes. It's been 2 or 3 minutes. I'm finished. I'm going to turn the heat off. And this is what I've got. It's a nice and thick pastry cream. So I'm going to reserve the cream into another container. You can take anything you want, a stainless steel, even a plastic. Stainless steel is usually better. And basically we take all of the cream and we put this into a clean container. And we're not going to keep this in the fridge, but at room temperature for that recipe. Now, as always, to avoid that a crust form, you take a plastic film and you're going to make sure it's in contact, so it touches the pastry cream. Now for the ramekin. So I did say I would talk about techniques and things you can do to make sure your soufflé rises correctly. So first, it depends on the ramekin you're going to be using. I'm using individual one. You can use large ramekin. You see these little lines there that you see in the ramekin? Well, this is the kinds of lines you have to do inside your ramekin when you coat them with butter and then sugar. So the whole thing, I melted some butter here in a pan, just a tiny bit. I've got a pastry brush. And all what I'm going to do, I'm going to take, so first the bottom of the ramekin, and then using the brush, I'm starting from the bottom and I'm pulling towards me like this. And you continue, and basically what you do is the same as this. You go like that. You have these lines inside, and that helps to make some kind of rails inside. Okay, so make one, and then you can make the other one. You don't need tons of butter, but it is important to have this thing. Okay. Now the next thing, you need to have sugar inside. You need to coat with sugar. Now the easiest thing, what you do, you take a lot of sugar. Okay, you can put a lot. In the ramekin, you fill the whole thing, and using these kind of containers like this, what you do, you turn your ramekin like this, and you let everything, and then you tap, you remove the excess, okay? Boom. So I've done my second ramekin. Of course, if you add more, you make more. If it's a big one, you make the big one. And now we're gonna move on and prepare the biscuits. Now the biscuits, it's very simple. We're gonna cut them in pieces and then soak them with the Grand Marnier, all right? So the size you want depends on the size of the ramekin. So I've got small ramekin, so of course, I'm going to try to make little slices like this. Okay. And there we have it. Look at this lovely little biscuit. You see when it's homemade? But they look a little bit lonely on here. So what we're going to do? I'm getting excited. We're going to add some Grand Marnier over. Okay. So 1 or 2 tablespoons. Don't overdo it. Well, that's what I'm doing, but I mean, you know. Up. Nice. And then in the liquor, we're going to move them around. And just make sure, you see, like, you see this 2 tablespoons is barely enough they have to be soaked in, and we can reuse the liquor afterwards. But, okay, we want to soften them up, and they're going to absorb the liquor. And these are going to be the little nuggets of pleasure you're going to have inside your soufflé. All right, so as soon as you're finished with the ramekin and the biscuit, this is where things starts to heat up a little bit. You need to get organized, because the line of event that's going to happen, it just happen in one string. You can't just stop and take a break or anything like that, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is to preheat your oven at 200 degrees Celsius. I put the equivalent in Fahrenheit on the screen, and I'm using this time without the fan on, okay? So it is just the conventional heat, no fan forced 200 degrees. All right, we're going to put this aside, and we're going to finish the pastry cream, make the meringue, assemble the two components, pour everything into a ramekin, and then cook. All right, so let's do this. Don't worry, it's not all that difficult. First thing we're gonna get here is the pastry cream that we have, that is still a little bit warm. Boom. We're gonna put the egg yolk, the extra, and then a tablespoon of liquor. If you want, you can use also some grating of zest of orange. That's also possible. Let me get a whisk here, and we're gonna mix together that. You can do it with a spatula as well, but because you see sometimes it can get a little bit firm at the beginning. So all of these ingredients are gonna contribute to what we call in French to détendre, to kind of render the pastry cream that was kind of in a block into a very specific consistency, and that kind of creamy consistency that we're gonna need for the egg white. So you see, so that's nice. You're gonna taste. We're gonna taste a little bit to make sure there's enough liquor. Yeah, that's fine. Now for the meringue, there's a little catch here. Depending on the size of your eggs, we need about 130 grams of egg whites. So you may have to add a little bit extra. So I'm putting the egg whites in here. Start with a little bit of sugar and a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna start. I'm using 4, you could go a bit slower. So we're always doing this with a little bit of sugar to really get plenty of mass into the egg white, okay? And the rest of the sugar that I've got here, I'm gonna go in 3 times. So a little bit now, I'm gonna wait for this to foam, and then a bit of sugar, and towards the end, the rest, right? So I'm halfway through, you can see it's a nice foam. I'm gonna add my second third of sugar. Perfect, so you can see the traces through my egg white, they start to get stiff. I'm gonna add the rest of the sugar in. And just at the end, we're gonna accelerate to really get that firm effect, and we're getting some nice and firm egg whites. So now is the time, look, you see, up, a bit of more speed, and just for a minute or so, and then I'm gonna stop. I should do it, up. Perfect, so the consistency, it's firm, and you see we get some kind of light little bicks, you see these things? Okay, and that's what you need. And now we're gonna take this and transfer into the pastry cream. Once you're here, you're gonna add barely a quarter of the egg white and mix that with the pastry cream gently. And that is just to give again that pastry cream that kind of base consistency we want. It's going to be similar to the one of the egg white. So you don't go like a mad person whisking around. You can use a spatula if you want, but for the very first bit, you can do this with a whisk. Okay. Now, remove the whisk, and the rest is going to happen with the spatula. So it's usually in 2 or 3 times. So you start, plenty of egg whites, and it's like a chocolate mousse. And then you're basically going to take from the middle, mix in, and try to make sure it's all incorporated. So be gentle. It does not matter too much, like, if it's breaking a little bit, the egg white, it's pretty forgiving, okay? And I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna add the rest. And that's gonna be it. See? Like a chocolate mousse. And we incorporate. Okay, maybe a final clean on the outside. Okay, up. And that's it. We've got a mixture ready. Alright, so sorry about the angle, because it's kind of hard with my camera and on my own. So basically, to make the souffle, you've got your ramekin. You can take a few of the pieces of biscuits. Okay, 2 or 3 or more, it depends on you, but I'm going to start with 3, okay? Then you're going to fill, simply, your fluffy mixture with a good spoon of souffle mixture in there. Okay, we're gonna add some biscuits, again, 2 and another 3, up. And to finish, you're gonna fill this till the top, okay? This is the big difference with the savory souffle. You actually fill that to the brim, okay? You really, really want a nice and generous amount. Now, if you want to work like, you know, the professional, whatever, you can use a spatula and you can really kind of smooth out the whole mixture here, if there's really too much, to make sure you've got enough everywhere, okay? Then, of course, for the chef, a bit of the mixture. Oh, wow, that is good. And now, the final trick. Okay, so we did tell you about the butter and the sugar. It has to follow these rails. And now there's the trick with the little thumb here. Let me show you. First, you have to wash your hands. All right, so usually the technique to really avoid that it sticks on the side, you take the edge of your thumb like this, you plant it inside the mold, and you turn like that. And you see that kind of, it makes a kind of an edge all around, and it basically detaches all the batter that's kind of just sticks. So you can see it kind of going inwards like this, and that's gonna help for the rice. And basically, that's it. We're done to put this into the oven. Okay, so because it is a souffle special, we're gonna be playing around. Instead of making everything at once, we're gonna use that one and see how it rises, okay? And then, when it's cooking, I'm gonna show you some other things you can do to make sure it really goes straight. But for now, I'm gonna put this in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, and then share the result with you when it's done. So my souffle is in the oven. Now, if you really want, there is an old technique, some people do it. You can actually wrap a piece of parchment paper around your ramekins and then attach it with a string like this. So you get the idea. So your souffle basically is gonna be totally encased in this. So when it rises, it's gonna have no choice but to go straight. So if it tends to fall on one side or the other. So in some restaurants, you know, when they want to have things really, really perfect, well, you can do this. And you're gonna see, you're gonna attach this here. But I'm not gonna do it because at the end of the day, you know what? Even if it's not totally straight, for me what matters is really the taste. And with all the work we've done, we should have that. All right, I just took it out of the oven. This is how it looks like. Basically, I don't have time to show you much. Sorry about this. But in a nutshell, okay. Let me come down for a sec because this is how it's hot. How it looks like. So I've tried to carry it and it almost slipped out of my hand. I was like, no! My souffle fall. So basically this is the classic Escoffier style soufflé au Grand Marnier with the orange liquor. And that's the way to serve it. You don't have much time. It's going to deflate immediately within minutes. So as soon as it's done, you have to serve them immediately and put them, of course, on the table. But this is what we want to see. So we've got a creamy inside, and it's cooked on the outside and still creamy inside, but I'm trying to fish out these biscuits. And let me try that. Oof. Whoa, that is, I mean, fluffy is not even it's like eating a cloud. Oh look, there's a biscuit. Yes. Let me grab one. Whoa, look at that. A bonus. Oh. Now that is, wow. This is something, honestly. So this is the result. Doesn't look very pretty. Let me turn the other way around because when you start eating it, and you see how it kind of deflates slowly, but it is absolutely gorgeous. The taste of that thing, it's hard to describe. You've got fumes of Grand Marnier, you know, it's infused with the flavor of orange, light as a cloud, light as a feather. And there's a slight biscuity kind of, it's a bit cooked on the sides. So you got kind of spongy cake-like with a mousse, with the pastry cream. I can't describe it. Absolutely brilliant. Wow, 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 what can I say? This is absolutely crazy. Now, I have to confess, this is the very first time I'm actually making a sweet soufflé, especially that one. It is the first time I ever tried one. I've never tried one before, but wow! The Escoffier style from the old days, with the biscuit, with the liquor, with the pastry cream. What you get, it's like restaurant style quality. It's really, really good. And even though there's a lot of steps, I would highly recommend that you go through the effort, you go through the motion, you push through to get that done, because it is an experience on its own. But that completes the video for this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, question, use the comment section, pictures, use Instagram, hashtag French Cook Academy, and I will see you all next week for another beautiful French recipe. Take care all, bye bye.